This is so fun for me to have my friend on here. This is Kenna from the Flip Hub. Chances are you've probably seen her. She's probably been behind a project that you pinned on Pinterest that you saved to try to do on your own. I mean, you're incredible, by the way. It's true.
Thank you.
She is a creator of like the most amazing projects. I think maybe one of my favorite ones that I've seen you do is the bathroom. The bathroom at your
Oh, yeah.
current house. That was so cool because the bathroom was so bad and you turned it so good.
Yeah.
And I love and I also hate that watching you makes me believe I'm capable of doing all of these kind of projects. I'm like, I can grout tile. It's fine. And then I'm like, turns out I can't. Turns out that was a bad idea. Bad
Turns out
experience.
this sucks.
So it turns out it's not all fun and games. Turns out it's not a time lapse video in real life, all of those things. So you are also a mother of three. You recently adopted a beautiful girl who you had been fostering for how long before that?
About 2 years.
2 years.
Almost.
Wow.
I guess it was just under 2 years.
Okay. So fostering for 2 years and finally got to adopt. I was tears of joy on my side when you had shared that it was finally time for that to happen. And I just am so happy for you and the relief that comes. I think
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine what that's been like, this process of back and forth and just like emotionally draining while you're raising your children and running this massively successful business and moving and all the things. Like,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
It's been a year.
Yeah, it has been a year. But the coolest part that I really believe, and I'm sure you can see parts of that now, but I think these years of struggle or these experiences that we go through, they are truly the thing that brings the most massive personal growth.
Oh, 1,000,000%. I was telling my husband that just the other night. We were talking about, because I'm 29, and
Hmm.
we were listening to, I was gonna say, was it your podcast? It wasn't your podcast. It was a different podcast we were listening to about something he had listened to, where they said like your 20s are your years to like explore, do things, figure
Mm,
it out. And we were talking about how I have started, like, successfully owned 3 businesses in my
hmm.
20s. And we were just
Yep.
talking about, like, and I say successfully, even though, because you don't see me running 3 businesses, what were the other 2, right? They were, I mean, you could call them failures, but I don't, because there's so much learning in that. Like,
They are like such important stepping stones. And I
yeah,
always feel sad when they make a pivot or they change or they evolve or any of that happens and they feel like it's failure.
yeah.
And I'm like, no, 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 no. It is all, you get to take everything that you learn in the process
Mhm.
and take it with you to the next step. And
Yes.
chances are you needed that anyways.
Yeah. Well, and so much learning and growing. I'm like, you wouldn't have done
Mm,
XYZ. You wouldn't be doing
mhm.
what you're doing now if you hadn't experienced whatever that was.
That is so true. And I'm actually so proud of you for like speaking
Yeah.
that out about yourself, because I think a lot of times it's hard to say those types of things.
Yeah.
So tell me the other things that you had worked through.
So I did, I'm trying to think which was first. So I had a company called The Tiny Compass, and it was baby stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was after Freshly Picked
Mm-hmm.
um had come out, and people were kind of like catching on to the moccasin trends. And I'm
Mm,
like, well, let's make baby booties. Now we were hand
mm-hmm.
making, and it gives me a whole new like level of respect for Susan, because
Yeah.
we were hand making these baby booties
Mm-hmm.
out of leather. And then we would go to these shows and we'd be competing with people that are doing Susan's dupes,
Mm,
getting them from China or wherever,
mm-hmm.
selling them for a fraction of the cost. Anyway, it
Yeah.
just wasn't realistic.
Did you
And
know I had a
so
baby website, like an online
you
baby
did?
store website? Yes. Like
I didn't know that.
I sold Bumbos on my website before they were in any store, directly from
Serious?
Bumbo. Is that hysterical? Yeah, totally. See,
Isn't it?
and it's a stepping stone. It's like,
Yeah.
no, that wasn't meant to be my forever, but that taught me so much.
Yeah. That's how I feel. I'm like,
Yeah.
I learned really quick the brick and mortar, not, or like, I guess it technically wasn't brick and mortar, but like having a product like that, I was
Mm,
like, I hate this.
hmm.
I don't
It's
like this.
hard.
I learned so much.
Inventory is like really hard.
It's stressful.
especially because when you
Yeah.
sell, then you have to turn around and put it all back into the company. And so you have to be
Mhm.
selling so much to be able to turn in
So much.
profits. And, there is just
Yeah.
a lot that goes into it that people don't realize.
Yeah. And I don't think you really do until you have been there.
Yeah, no,
But
absolutely.
again, that's why that experience is so important because like
Hmm.
I'll work with baby companies now that are
Yeah.
small and I'm like, I know exactly
Hmm.
what you're doing, what you're feeling, what you're going through. So that was cool.
Yep. That's
That was a
awesome.
good experience. I did that with a friend and then I did a company called The Latest Lovely with my younger sister.
Okay.
And so I started it and then she joined and we painted cabinets. We refinished people's cabinets.
Yes.
And that was so much work.
I was just thinking, you are such a hard worker. Like,
Uh-huh.
I'm always scheming, like, what's the next business deal to like make more money? And but you're like, how much work can I actually do?
Yeah, but that's the thing is I'm like, I've learned quickly, I'm like, that's not the business I want to be in. I don't want my time to be tied to my
Mm,
money. And that was
mm-hmm.
like, I mean, it was so work intensive. And I mean, just like, uh, I, I mean, it was good. I got
Yeah.
so much experience. I
Well, and you're
learned
so
so
talented
much.
at what you do, probably
Oh,
because of all that you
yeah.
learned in that business.
Yeah. So that
Yeah.
was good. And then I actually, when I started the Flip Hub, I started with my cousin's wife.
Mm.
And she kind of like after it wasn't very it was probably maybe 2 3 months into it that she was like I hate
Did
this.
you?
And when the Flip Hub first started it was just furniture flipping. It
Okay.
was just flipping furniture for profit. And
Mm,
the reason I was doing this, so I had kind of been just like flipping stuff, selling it, whatever, and then we made it official, like this
mm.
is the Flip Hub.
Yeah.
And
Which I love your
side
name.
note, well, so hub, the Flip Hub, right? Like the place where you flip
Yeah.
stuff, whatever. But Hubb, so my maiden name is Hubbard. So it's like an ode to
Oh,
like
I love
my
that.
grandpa, my yeah,
Yeah, that's so
I
cool.
and I've like thought like maybe I should change my name, but I'm like, no, I actually love it and I'm
I
happy with
love
it.
your name. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
No, that's
Um,
awesome. So you're working with her and then it ends up just you.
yeah, she just and it wasn't a
Yeah.
bad ending in any way. She was just kind of like, this is not bringing me the joy, it brings
Mhm.
you.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I had done business solo and with other people, and I was like, I actually think I prefer solo.
Yeah. I
You
was
know.
actually going to say, I was curious why each of those started with a partner. And I think
Mhm.
this is like something good to think about with anyone who is thinking about starting a business is what are the pros and cons of starting a business with someone or solo?
Oh, are you asking me that?
Well, I think it's a good thing to talk about because I have
Oh,
my
it
thoughts on
is.
both sides.
It is.
I Go ahead.
Well, I was just say I think each person has something to offer and
Mm,
something to bring to the table, but you're still you're navigating two people
mhm,
plus a business, which then means money.
mhm,
Um, and so there's just a lot that goes into it. And as much as I don't know, and I know people can successfully run partnerships, but I
mhm,
just think that would be really, really hard to not have. I mean, because business is frustrating. Like I get
mhm,
frustrated with myself with my business. My husband and I
mhm,
like we'll talk. He'll ask me about contracts I have or what's due or what's upcoming, and I'm like, don't ask me.
mm,
Don't talk to me about it. It's already in my brain. So like to have to
mm.
communicate that, I don't know, but I do think there are benefits if you can do it. Have a partner,
Yeah.
great,
I think
great.
a lot of people think they can't start, they are too scared to start a business alone.
Oh
And
yeah.
so they just by default, they're like, if I have someone to do it with, I'm going to be braver. And
Mhm.
I think that it's important to think about, am I doing this because I truly want a partner that I want to split, responsibilities with? Is this someone I want to split? I will be happy to split finances with. Is this someone that I'm willing to have conversations with? Am I like, I think that those questions need to be asked more
Mhm.
besides like, does this feel safer or more comfortable
Yeah.
with a partner? Because I think that's typically
Mhm.
why people do it is because they feel afraid to put themselves out there alone.
Totally.
Or so that's kind of my thought. So I'd ask yourself those questions before you get into a partnership, especially if it's like your business, your idea. And,
Yeah.
and if unless it's someone who brings something that you have no ability in or no experience or no knowledge in, then I would say, yeah, think
Yeah.
hard.
Well, and it kind of comes back to that, like the fear of failure. And, again, when you fail, you learn so much. But if you're
Mhm.
not willing to start, if you're not willing to try, if you're relying on somebody else, again, some people do it for different
Yeah.
reasons, but if the reason you're doing it is because you're too scared to do it solo, like you've already got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to
Work
be
through
willing
that
to,
first. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Work through that first before you take on a business, because that is an additional life.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Oh, okay. So Kenna has the Flip Hub. It turns into her. You're flipping furniture, and then it starts growing really, really, really fast.
yeah.
Really
So
fast.
yeah. So I started flipping furniture, and then
Okay.
it kind of just, I was like, oh, I really like this. Like, I'm good at this. I
Yeah.
can teach people.
Hmm.
And it became really fun. And that's the funny thing is, like, with what I do, people are like, well, what would you do if you weren't like working online as an influencer, or,
Yeah.
you know, working on Instagram? And I'm like, I would be getting projects done 2 times faster because I wouldn't be recording everything.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
I'd
That
be
is so
doing the
true.
same
Yeah.
thing.
Hmm.
Anyway, so I was doing the Flip Hub, and I actually took an online course, and there was like, I can't remember how many people. It was actually one of Susie's
Hmm.
first, what did she call it? I can't remember. It was like the first ever
It was like
idea
a
of
virtual.
Susie's
Yeah.
school.
Okay.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And there was like, I can't even remember, a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there. I don't remember a lot about the course itself, but I remember sitting there thinking, there are 200 people.
Mm.
There is no way every single one of us does this. There's
Mm.
no way every single one of us like continues forward. And I remember distinctly, like I can picture it, sitting at my kitchen table going like, I'm not going to fail. Like I
Mm.
refuse to allow this to be a failure, whatever that looks like,
Mm.
you know? So
Hmm.
I decided, and that was in probably September or October.
I just want to stop you for 1 second and talk about this right here. Because I watch so many people get stuck in this cycle of gathering information, gathering information, gathering information. And it feels like you're working on your business, and it feels
Mhm,
like growth. And while personal growth happens from you showing up and learning, and there's always something to learn, but I
mhm.
love that you knew that you wanted to learn and then take action from what
Yeah.
you learned. And I think that is the most important thing. Like when I see people signing up for course after course after course after course, I always get a little panicked. Like, what are you doing with the growth?
Mhm,
Because if we just continue to grow, then that's fine. If you have if your hobby is like learning, but don't confuse learning with growing your business
mhm.
um, to some degree. So sorry,
Totally.
thanks for letting me jump in there. But I love that you
Well,
had that thought. Like not everyone's going to take this information and do something with it. And honestly, that's your responsibility, because a lot of
mhm.
people will take a course or learn and they're like, "Oh yeah, it didn't really help me."
They're
Well,
upset or
what did you
frustrated.
do
Yeah.
with it? Right?
Yeah. You had all this information
Yeah.
at your fingertips. What did you then go do?
So
Yeah.
you took the information and what did you do?
So I took that information and I was like, I'm going to implement a few of these things. I'm going to implement the things I already know. And then
Mm,
it was like, it was a couple months. And then I had a few, I mean, I just was hustling. I was sharing. And I think the most important thing when it comes to social media, especially, and this is one thing that's really, really cool. I think it is applicable to across social media in general, but especially in the field or the niche that I'm in,
mm-hmm,
is that it's very, very supportive. So I
mm,
started doing this DIY stuff, and I immediately was like talking to other people. There's a girl, Katie from Florence Revival. I
mm-hmm.
had a thing come up on my phone, like the memories, and it was like
Yeah.
2 years ago. I did
Oh,
this $200 2 days $200 bathroom makeover,
okay.
and
So
she and
fun.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, it was so fun. And she and I didn't even know each other, and we just were like both doing it at the same time, and like just little things like that where you like get these connections. So I started to connect with these people,
Mm,
and it was kind of like this incredible realization of like, I'm doing this, there's other people doing this. Like it
mm.
was just so much, like a huge sense of fulfillment, because first of all, we were doing the projects, we were seeing the finished work, which is really nice in what we do, right?
Yeah.
We
For
get that
sure.
reveal, we get that.
You get the result.
Yeah. But then you have the other side of it where it's like there are other people doing this, and I'm also getting this fulfillment of connection,
Mm,
and real connection,
yep.
not just like, I don't know.
No, I actually see that from the outside in. Even I'm not really in that home design, decoration, remodel, all of that. Like I'm not really in that space specifically, but I
Mhm.
see the support. And I think
Mhm.
it's awesome when you guys do those challenges together. I see a lot of people sharing each other's finished products,
Yeah.
sharing, really like rooting each other on, and celebrating your projects and
Yeah.
taking inspiration from and sharing where their inspiration came from. And I think that's so cool.
It is really, really cool. And so that to have that connection from the beginning, and then it kind of just started to snowball.
Mm,
And it like, I mean, there were a few different things that I did. I collaborated, I worked with a lot of people, but because of this work that I was doing, I was putting in a lot of work.
yeah.
And then what happened is it just like it blew up so fast. I mean, I
Mm,
grew like, I mean, I was over 100,000 in a year. Was
that's
it a
insane.
year? Yeah.
That's actually
Yeah.
insane. But
Yeah.
I think it is because of that. I think it's because you've already been doing the work. So
Hmm.
you know what you're doing. You have a lot of great content already out there. You're connecting with people and you guys are all sharing each other. And I
Hmm.
think that's why the home space accounts or Pinterest or anything, like, they grow so fast because
Hmm.
like it's a community of sharing and encouraging and
Hmm.
showing. And I don't know, I think that's so cool.
It's a cool space to be in and to be a part of. So it's been a lot. It's been
Yeah.
awesome.
But super fast growth doesn't always feel good.
No, I mean it was awesome, right? Like
Mhm.
it gave me really incredible opportunities. I
Mhm.
was able to work with big brands really quickly. I was able to do all these things, but here's the thing: is I'm this tiny little fish. I've been around for 6 months,
Mm.
and Walmart's like, "Hey, we want to work with you," and I'm like,
You're like,
"Okay,
"Sounds
what do I
great."
do? Like, what am I? How does that work?" So I think the experience that can come with that slower growth is
Mhm.
really crucial.
Mm.
But I do think with the faster growth, like I was like, "Hey, well,
You're
sink or
forced
swim."
into it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that
That's
was that was kind of fun. But people are like, "I just want to grow." I'm like, "No, you like maybe you do, but what are you gonna do when you get there?
mm,
Like, what? Why do you want to grow?" Because I
mhm,
look at it now, and I think a lot of it has been like, "Let's grow, let's grow, let's grow, let's grow."
mm,
I'm talking numbers, right?
mhm.
But it's kind of like that's not what's important. You want that community. You want those people there cheering you on, talking with you, engaging with you, like genuinely uh, a part of what you're doing because those
Yeah.
numbers don't matter if they're just numbers.
Yeah, if they're just numbers and there's not that interaction, they're not on board with what you're doing or who you are connected to you. And I see both sides of that. Like, I
Yeah.
think that when there are people who are doing, the work that they're doing and they're creating that really solid foundation, then if it grows fast, then it's probably a little less hard because
Yeah.
they're maybe ready for that,
When they're
for
comfortable in what they're
Mhm,
doing.
and comfortable in what
Yeah.
in what they're doing. Like Sharon Says So is a great example of that.
Yes.
Like, she's
Yes.
doing she was doing the work, and I'm sure there are parts of the growth that have been like, holy cow, what is actually happening right now,
Yeah.
right? When every
Yeah.
news station across America is calling, she's probably like, you want to talk to me? I mean, there's
Yeah.
so I think, and that's you, Walmart, coming to you, but you were able to sustain even though it felt so hard because you had built that nice foundation of what you were doing,
Totally.
what you wanted to do.
Totally.
So you start flipping furniture, you're making money to grow your family,
Hmm.
which, like, it's amazing to me when people have come up against like a roadblock that feels like maybe I don't have options,
Yeah.
and you create options for yourself. So you're like, we need more money to grow our family, which is
Hmm.
just, isn't that just crazy that
It is. It
is a
is.
thing? You're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm like trying to bring people into this world and give them a
Yeah.
beautiful life. So let me see how much money I can
So
make
let
to
me
make,
just
yeah, to
drain
let
my
me
bank
just,
account.
right. Like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
just breaks my heart. So, but you see this opportunity of growth, and we talk about how your business grew. So in what ways did your business grow?
I mean, numbers wise,
Okay.
obviously, like
So your
follow
community
count
grew
wise, my
really
community
fast.
grew.
Yeah.
And then business itself, being able to actually make money,
Hmm.
work with brands, and I kind of got in this cool space where I was able to do what I loved doing, teach people how to
Mm.
do what I'm doing, and then Walmart or Lowe's or whoever was like, okay, well, we want you to use this paint. You're using it anyway. Let us pay you. And it was like,
Yeah.
okay, great. You know,
Yes.
so it just allowed for so much freedom. I mean, freedom might be the wrong word, but it allowed for so much growth
Freedom
and
doesn't,
learning.
but freedom doesn't mean that you don't have anything to do. right?
Oh yeah,
Freedom.
yeah.
Sometimes I think that we think freedom means like I'm free,
Spare
I'm on a
time. Yeah.
beach, I have all the spare time in the world. And there is an element of freedom that is that. But
Hmm.
you have the freedom now in this business that you've created where your husband left his job, right?
Hmm.
Almost a year
Yeah.
ago or a year
Yeah.
ago.
It'll be a year in 2 months. Yeah.
Okay. So he leaves his job, which frees up your, like, doesn't matter where you live.
Yeah.
So then you buy this house in the mountains,
Hmm.
which that is freedom, being able to move your
Yeah.
family wherever. And
Yeah.
now you have this family at home. And so you actually have a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
The freedom sometimes is hard to keep a grip on,
Yeah.
because when we are free to work or be with our family, or it's hard when you're commingling all the things like you do.
Hmm.
I've experienced that um
Yeah.
when my business was all in my house. So I know that it's hard to put limits on the freedom,
Oh
whether
yeah.
it's limits on your work or limits on your family, or how to manage all of that. So what has that looked like for you?
It has been a struggle. I think that people, especially with my husband quitting his job, which has been amazing. It's been, I mean, the biggest blessing. Like,
Mm,
and I recognize that, like, not only are we are not living the traditional life, but like
mm.
we are very lucky. I like the term lucky and blessed, but I also think we've worked very hard to get where we are. You
Yes.
know.
Yes.
Um.
Lucky is someone who's like willing to look for the opportunity. So when it comes, they're ready to take it, I think.
Yeah. Totally. So that freedom. I mean, it's hard because like today, my it's the last week of summer. My husband and the kids are at the park,
Mm,
and I've
I'm
got to
sorry
work.
you're here with me.
No, I
Thank
no.
you.
No,
No,
I'm
I get it.
happy to
Yeah.
be here. But
Yeah.
here's the thing is like I also have the freedom, that
But tomorrow
I
maybe you won't be. Tomorrow you don't have to call a boss. You don't have to. Tonight you
yeah,
have options. Like you get to live in the mountains, which is
yeah,
incredible. Yeah,
yeah,
there are always like give and take in any
totally.
situation, right? And so deciding that it was the right thing for your family, for your husband to leave his job, and for you guys to move, and for you to take this on full, like fully, that's a
Well,
lot,
yeah.
and a lot on
Well,
your
and
shoulders.
it has been truly we kind of chatted for a minute before we
Yeah.
started recording, but talking about I started my business to grow my family, and then after right after right before it started, we had moved,
Mm,
and that was kind of we grew a little bit because we were in a bigger house, right? So we
mhm.
had that kind of physical growth,
Yeah.
but then we had the opportunity to do foster care, and that grew and stretched and strengthened us in
Mhm.
every possible way.
Yeah.
So we had so much growth from there. And then you just look back and I'm like, okay, this had to have happened. Like we decided to do foster care after my first son was born. And we actually started the process. And
Mm,
then it was like, hold up, actually, we're not doing this yet. We're going to
interesting.
wait
Yeah.
and we're going to try a few other fertility treatments, whatever. And then we had my son. And then it was kind of like we knew because we had already decided 3 years prior we were going to do foster care, that it was like,
Mm,
okay, well now we're doing that now, so we couldn't have done it had we lived where we did. We had to have an additional bedroom. We had, all these things that went into play. And then it's so crazy. And I know that not everybody, whatever your God may be, right? Like
yeah.
whatever your spiritual guidance is,
Mhm,
we were very, very much guided to do the
mhm.
things we have done to
Yep.
end up where we are here. And I think that can't come, that confirmation, whether, for me, it is God, right? For
Mhm.
me, I believe it's the spirit guiding me,
Yeah.
telling me, confirming what I know.
But I
So
will say that you can be prompted and told and directed. And unless you are willing to
yep.
trust yourself, so trust yourself, trust that voice, recognize it, that
Mhm.
you won't maybe be able to take those steps.
Totally.
And
Well,
so
and
I think
that's
you didn't see what you saw now when you took the steps of filling out the foster papers, right?
right, right.
You hadn't even seen your daughter. You hadn't seen what your life would look like, but you were willing to take that step that felt right for your family.
Yeah, totally. And it all just builds on each other. You have to have that faith, that
Yeah.
courage to do those things. It's so funny because I don't know what it is about this week or the last 2 weeks, but I have had so many times like the thought of like, you have to just start. You have
Mm,
to just start. You have to just put like
yep.
that, the mustard seed of faith. Like you've got to believe
Mhm.
that something's going to come from it. And I think that's, and maybe it's like with people I talk to online, or,
Mm.
I had 3 people within 2 days ago. I had 3 people reach out about like, hey, I want to do my own business. I want to start doing what you're doing. And I'm like, okay, great, start. Like
Yeah,
you have to start. You have to just,
literally.
and it sounds so easy to say, but it's like you're not going to find any growth. You're not going to make any
Mm-mm.
change. You're not going to do anything until you at least start. And guess
Mhm.
what? Like you might start it and hate it,
Yeah,
but
change
you
your mind.
learned that you
Yep.
hated it.
And you would never
So
know. You would never know that you hated it. You would only live with like the shame or the frustration or doubts with yourself that you didn't.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that so much. And nothing that you have built could have come without taking each individual step.
Yep.
Right? It doesn't go from A to Z. It's like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's all of those steps in between that matters. And the more that you're willing to take those steps and make those moves and make progress and shift and change and go, the more you learn to trust yourself. And the more you aren't afraid of taking a wrong step and then changing. And it's not really a wrong step, it's a learning step. So
Mhm.
I love, because I see that so much in you, is just that willingness to go and do and try and rip tile off the wall and start over. And I mean, not to bring up anything, I'm sure. Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, no, but it's true. Like, but you didn't say like, this sucks, I suck, I'm never doing this again. When something goes wrong, you're like, oh shoot, that really sucks. And now I know that I need to do
Yeah.
this again. Or just sometimes, guess what? Things come up and you're like, oh, I did not see that coming. Never mind.
Hmm.
Hate it. Starting over. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And
But not being afraid of that.
it's all about that perspective of like how, I mean, because I had to rip that tile off the wall and it was so much work, and it, put me so behind. And like I've had so many experiences like that, and it's like I'm never gonna install it wrong again.
Mm-mm.
You know what
No,
I mean? Like
no. Yeah.
it's
It's,
just
it's true, but you're not afraid. I love that you are fearless in being willing. Maybe you feel afraid, but I don't ever see what you're doing and watch you and think that you will ever let fear get in the way of what your goals are, or what you want to do, or what vision you see for your life and your projects.
yeah. But that has come with time. I
Mm,
like chose, it might have been you, maybe it was you, but that has like a phrase for the year or something you do for
yeah.
the year.
Hmm.
Okay, you shared about that and I did that. So this year, my word was like, be brave. Like I'm just gonna choose
Mm,
this year. Like, and I have thought I have it like taped up on my wall. So every time I've like had, whether it whatever it relates to, my thought is okay, I'm going to be brave. And so how am I going to approach this situation? Well, it's
yeah.
not a question because I know how I'm going to approach it. I'm
Mm,
going to choose bravery, and I'm going to, I'm going to face it head on, and I'm going to, you know, do what I have chosen to do.
and you're going to work through it and it's going to be
Mhm.
okay in the end, right?
Yeah.
So I've also seen you sell courses.
Hmm.
You've also held retreats,
Hmm.
learning retreats, right? And that felt scary,
So
right?
scary.
Like
Yes.
that putting yourself physically in a place where you are going to teach and like give people insane value, but it also is up for like you go in and say, what are they going to get from me? Are they going to like this? Is this going to feel good? Is this worth it? And all of that goes into your brain, but like you
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah. So much. So much. And I will say, like, the in-person retreats, like, it was incredible and amazing. And I learned from it that I was like, maybe in-person retreats are not for me.
Yeah.
Now, people could be like, oh, you hated it. That was a failure. And I was like, no, it was amazing. Like,
Mhm.
truly, the experience itself was amazing. But
Yeah.
also, what was amazing was I was able to draw from it, like, because I was ready to pivot. I was
Mm.
ready to totally pivot and go, like, I'm going to teach people business. I'm going to do this.
Mm.
And then it
Mhm.
was kind of like, actually, this doesn't bring me the joy that I thought it would.
Mm.
So,
It's so
so
good.
yeah,
And it's so
yeah.
important. It is so important to give yourself, when you have like this thing that feels like you want to try it or that you want to do it, it is so important to give yourself permission to try and also
Hmm.
give yourself permission to decide,
Hmm.
because doing it isn't the final decision. But some
Yeah.
people believe it is. I was actually just having this conversation with a bunch of teenage girls last night about dating boys.
Oh my
And
gosh.
they were talking to me about feeling anxious about deciding to date a boy because then they're afraid if they change their mind that they don't want to, that they're going to hurt their feelings and then it's going to be this thing and blah blah. I was like, it's not a permanent decision, right? We're
No.
so afraid, we're thinking 10 steps ahead sometimes, and
Mhm.
it paralyzes us from doing something that's right in front of us.
Yeah.
So while the dating the boys thing is a silly comparison, but it's the same idea. If we learn to truly just trust ourselves and give ourselves the permission and the grace and the encouragement to try something that looks like something we might want or we might want to do, and then knowing that we can trust ourselves again after that, even if it wasn't the thing we want to do forever.
Yeah. Yes, I love that. And I think that is, I love that comparison though, because it might seem, so small and
Yeah, it's called dating
insignificant.
for a reason. Like, it's called
Yeah,
dating for a reason, and there's so much dating that happens in
in life.
business
Yes,
and
I was just
life,
gonna say,
right?
like, how applicable is that? Dating boys in high school, it,
It's
you
so
apply
true.
that to
I've never even thought
everything.
I've literally never I just came up
Just
with this
so,
right now, right on the spot.
uh-huh.
But it's so true. In business is like a dating game. And the cool part is that I think the marriage is when you find your purpose and you can take your purpose and put it in any business that you're actually
Yeah.
doing. So
Yes.
being true to yourself and your purpose, and then you're dating all over the place.
Yep. You're a player.
Oh, you're a player. Oh my gosh, that is
Uh,
amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
that came out of nowhere, but it's true. It is so
that is
true.
true.
And giving yourself that permission. And if you're dating someone that you don't want to be dating anymore, that's okay too. If you are listening, you are not stuck. This is not a period.
This
You
is not
can
the end.
change. Yeah, like it's giving yourself, but I think it is, we worry so much about other people. We worry so much about letting
Mhm.
people down or that it looks like failure, but it's not failure unless you quit. It's not failure, like quit life. It's not
Mhm.
failure unless you don't look, you are unwilling to look at the things that you learned and take them with you.
Well, and it's not like a one and done thing.
Mm-mm.
It's a constant
Yeah.
practice and
Hmm.
application. And
Oh,
then
so
after
good.
you've, applied it and done it, then you're going to do it again
And you
tomorrow
probably
or in
get
5
better at it
seconds.
each time, right?
Yeah,
That's the
totally.
hope. Yeah. And you can probably learn quicker. You learn quicker, like what you like and what you don't like, what you're looking for. You're probably even better at voicing your expectations and
Yeah.
your wants and your needs quicker. I think that
Yeah.
that's also true. So it is this learning and growing. And it has been so awesome watching you just take this hobby, this passion that you have, and turn it into where you're at now. I
Yeah.
think it's
Thank you.
incredible. Anytime I see these big brands working with you, I always say, of course they are. Like, of
Oh my gosh,
course.
you're so
Why would
nice.
they not? Like, of course they are working with you. And it takes courage and it takes hard freaking work and sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I see that happening on your Instagram and in your life. And I am so inspired by it. You guys, the Flip Hub is her Instagram. Do you have a website also?
Yeah, thefliphub.com.
So
I
the Flip
just my new website literally just launched today.
Oh, today? Okay, well,
Yeah,
it's not gonna be today when they hear this, but when
but
when
it'll
we
be
yeah,
live.
but the website will be live, so you can check it out. You can learn from her. You can be inspired by her and learn. I think it's so cool to watch you do all those things. You make me believe I'm capable, and maybe if I gave myself a little bit more grace and a little bit more time, then maybe I really would be
And
capable.
just practice.
But the lessons that I really learned from you is that willingness to grow and evolve and to start here, and that the bigger picture is bigger and better than you probably could have ever dreamt of. And I think that's so inspiring.
Well, thank you.
So I always love to end my podcast with these two questions. The phrase "fire in her heart, peace in her soul" is so important to me. To just remind people that you can dance with both. You can have that fire,
Mhm.
that passion, but not have to sacrifice that peace that brings happiness and joy and contentment in life. So, what is one thing that is currently lighting your heart on fire?
So it kind of ties in a lot to everything we've been talking about. I've worked really, really hard to get where I'm at. And I feel like after this last year, we had our adoption, we had
Hmm.
lots of big things, the move, my husband quit, like all these big changes. And so I think what's really just lighting me on fire is getting to be where I am and like
Mm.
enjoying the now, and knowing that like what I'm doing can continue and I am in control of that. And realizing that is just like, I mean, it
So
lifts you up, right? Like,
exciting. Yes.
yeah, it's so great just like having that, realizing and recognizing the power that I have within me to
Mm,
create a life that I love and want to live and want to share. And more than anything, want to share so that other people can know like you can do this. You
mhm,
can do anything. You don't have to
mhm,
you don't have to be like me. Like if you don't want to paint a wall, my gosh,
mm-mm,
please don't. But like
mm-mm.
whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it. And once you realize that, I like it feels like this physical like I don't
Totally.
know, bursting of like
It
I
is
can do this.
physical.
And
Yeah.
like it's amazing. So that's what's lighting me on fire is getting to where I'm at, having worked so hard, and then just knowing I can continue
Well, and
doing it.
seeing it and enjoying it. I think we forget that part of the work so hard is like that stopping and seeing and
Mm-hmm.
loving and just celebrating what is. So that's
Yeah.
that's beautiful. And
Yeah.
what is one thing that you do to protect the peace of your soul?
Um, it's something that I think I have to continually work on, but just drawing those boundaries and taking the time to just breathe and be. Allowing we live in such a hurried world, especially working online, my phone is my work is attached to me all the time. And so to leave that, and whether it's, being with my kids or just solo, being out in nature and allowing myself to really, you know, feel feel myself feel, or allow myself to feel and be grounded and know, I am here, I'm safe.
Yeah.
This is,
You said
that's
breathe and be. And I think
mhm,
that's so beautiful. I think we should put that on a t-shirt. Breathe and
yes.
be.
Breathe and
Breathe
be.
and be. And that is so,
TM. That's
yeah.
my new, that's my new
Breathe and be. I think that's so important for all of us to remember. And I do also think it's true for all of us that it is really something that we have to continue to work on is protecting that peace. And I think that's why I like to end my episodes with that question, is because I want you to self-reflect on what is it that you're doing to protect the peace, because it won't naturally happen.
no.
The world will eat you up and you will destroy yourself unless you take that time to breathe and be, or do whatever it is that really brings you back to yourself in that inner peace that cannot be disrupted by anyone or anything, because it is intentionally being protected. So
Mhm.
thank you so much for sharing. I just love you and love all that you're doing. I'm so proud of you and I think you're amazing.
Thank you. I love you. You're the best. Thank you for having me.